This is Breaking Pressure, the voice of soccer reform, a podcast built to confront the broken U.S. youth soccer system and expose the pressures that are crushing real development. We're here to call it out. The pay-to-play platforms, the closed leagues, the politics gatekeeping talent, and erasing the voices of good coaches and local clubs. At our core, we believe in something better, one where players are developed to be brave, creative leaders. Inspired by the Kansas City Legends model and the training Legends for Life philosophy, this is where the next wave begins. Welcome to Breaking Pressure. Let's rebuild the game. Hello and welcome back to Breaking Pressure. This is episode 9, because we did episode 9, and it's titled The Journey of a Million Miles, Part 1, with a special guest, Jen Buczkowski. Jen, welcome to the studio.
The buzz.
The buzz.
Wow.
Thank you guys for having me. I know we've been talking about this for a while, and I've finally made my entrance.
Well, a little late, but she made it.
The sun
She's
is
a rookie.
up. I'd like to say the sun is up.
That was request number 1, is we're not doing this at the dark of 5:30 in the morning. Yeah. So, no, but it's great to have you in here, and we've been talking about this for a while, because your career and your journey in this sport is probably as good as it gets for 99.8% of the players out there, right? And when we think about your role with some of the kids these days, man, what a wonderful role model to have in front of them. If you're going to learn from somebody, why not learn from somebody that's been through the experience? And I can't wait to kind of dig in and learn more about it and really ask you some questions. So,
wait, can I just say something?
No.
I mean,
yeah.
Jen, he's comparing you to me, so the bar's really low.
So for those that don't know, Jen's resume is extraordinary, winning championships at Notre Dame, excelling at the professional level, and earning the nickname the Iron Woman of soccer. But before all of that, before the trophies and the accolades, there was a little girl with a ball and a dream and a family who believed in her. Part 1 of a 3-part series is going to be the early days of Jen's journey within the sport. Where did she learn the grit, the hard work, and the mindset that helped her have such a long career? So, Jen.
Oh, you're on the spot now.
Where do we start?
Tell us about it. You grew up in Chicago. Tell us about how you grew up and where you played and who coached you and maybe the style that you kind of grew up in.
Yeah, I am from Chicago, and I grew up, the town I was from was called Elk Grove, and, I think soccer today is a lot different than when I started playing.
Did you have to grow up playing barefoot? Well, in the streets of
I'm
Chicago?
Not that old, Sarah. Not as old as you, but no. I played with the girls that went to my local school. My best friend lived 5 houses down the street. Her dad coached and my dad coached, and neither one of them even had anything to do with soccer. They had no prior experience. And so, I just played for fun, and I started just probably like anyone else, just getting into activities as a young kid. I think I started when I was 5 years old, but it was just more for fun. And there was never let's get you in soccer to play college soccer, or let's get you in soccer to be a professional. That stuff never existed back then. So it was mere, just for fun and enjoyment and being with your friends.
Did you play other sports?
I did cross country. I did volleyball for a little bit. I did basketball. I think I did one season, one fall or one spring of softball. But I did kind of do a lot more soccer than everything else. That was always my priority, not just because it was, something I was good at or because I had to. It's just what I chose. I didn't really love anything else like that. So
the one you chose, I find so much these days that nobody really tries anything. We start to specialize kids at 7, 8 years old, and my God, there's a whole big world out there, but we want to just put blinders on them and move them down this track to get somewhere. I don't know really what that means, but so did you start on the rec side of soccer, or did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like you showed up, we had green and yellow jerseys and, oranges at a halftime. Someone brought snacks for after the game. It was like back in the innocent days of, again, just having fun. And
were you excited to have Gatorade at the end of the game and everybody
It wasn't Gatorade. It's like Capri Suns and
yeah.
Kool-Aid. It was
Kool-Aid and stuff. I mean, we played like at some grass field behind the church, or maybe at the middle school, and there were no turf fields, right? It was all grass. And I remember sometimes even after like games, we played, I think, mainly on Sundays. Like, it wasn't you were playing Friday night games. It was like you had one league game on a Sunday, and maybe your team did one tournament. And so, like, after the games on Sundays, the parents would have like a little tailgate, and everyone would just kind of hang out. And it was more like kind of that family and like community type, thing. And again, I played with girls that were all, at my school or in the same district.
So from rec, you obviously stepped into club. What did club look like for you? And more importantly, what age?
I want to say probably at under 13, maybe.
Wow.
I think, like I said, my dad and my best friend's dad coached us in the local club, Elk Grove Soccer Club, up until maybe 11 and 12. And then we joined, it was just a smaller club. The guy that ran it, Tony Keys. It was called Arsenal, and so it was kind of a little bit more technical based, similar to what we do at Legends. But there was just a handful of boys teams, and he was starting just the first or second girls team with that and stuff. And so it was a very small club again at the time, and so that was my first experience. And then at some point he kind of got out of that. I think he got into high school coaching and stuff. And then I joined the Sockers, which is a bigger, at the time was known for boys though. A bigger club.
She grew up playing like me. I mean, I'm surprised I didn't go professional.
So was there a moment as a kid where you kind of realized I love this game? What was your pivotal moment that kind of changed your mindset of saying, I really want to make a run at this sport? Or was there one?
I think, honestly, I always kind of look back. I've talked about this kind of stuff before, but like the 99 World Cup, at that point, I'd kind of gotten in, I think, some ODP stuff. I was playing a little bit more club and a little bit more consistently and seriously, I guess, if you want to use that word. But watching the 99 Women's World Cup, I just remember like watching those games, and then even after the final, it was just like excitement and stuff. And I just remember like it was late in the afternoon or evening, and we were supposed to be going out to dinner, but I like made my mom and dad wait, and I like went across the street afterwards. I grew up, and across the street from us was a huge park, just a community park, and I made us go across the street and play soccer before we went to dinner. So I don't know, it was just like
that moment.
Yeah, it was like in that moment, or like I don't know, it was just in that I was like I must really love this sport and want something great from it, and just like little things like that. Now that like at the moment I didn't really probably realize it, but now when I look back at different things, that's probably a key moment.
I think about that 90s team, the USA women's team, and I think they just laid a platform for young girls in the sports, because it wasn't around. I mean, soccer for girls wasn't necessarily like even in existence before really that team. I mean, they led the pathway, and I think they inspired so many, because I remember watching those games too. I am a little bit older than Jen, but I remember watching those.
We see the gray hairs.
They should be. Are they underneath? No, I remember watching them, and they were just such an inspiration. I mean, that was the Mia Hamm and Brandy Chastain. It was just such a fun group to watch, and I think they were trailblazers for sure. And here Jen is today.
Well, it's funny, like on the women's side, women's soccer has been worlds ahead of the rest of the world in terms of soccer, but the men have always lagged the rest of the world. Like European soccer is so much better than, or South American soccer has always been, a stronger platform. So to have all of these strong women of the 90s with the U.S. grow up, I mean, they inspired an entire generation that really put women's soccer for U.S. ahead of the game for a long period of time. And so it was fun to kind of watch this growth. And what I hate about today is it seems like we had all this excitement and momentum, and now we're just kind of stalled while the rest of the world is catching up. And a large part of what we're doing with this podcast is to talk about why the heck are they catching up. And I think a lot of it goes right back to the root of what you're talking about. We no longer let kids just play at these younger ages, right? We want to get them on a path to go play Division I or to go play on the national team. But I'm here to tell you, like, national team holds how many players? You had experience at the national team level, right? Talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so competitive, and, you think about the amount of kids, and, I think this week we had an announcement with the Kansas City Legends of a couple kids getting invited to one of the ID sessions coming up, and, and talking to some of them and their parents, I'm just like, they don't even understand what the process necessarily is quite yet, but I'm like, there's so many kids out there, right? And for you to be successful, you have to, do something exceptional. There are millions and millions of kids your age that, are wanting to be in this same position, and it's so hard, like, getting selected for the next thing. I mean, getting selected at all is just an honor, because there's just so many kids out there doing it and stuff. And it's super competitive, and, you're battling not kids just from your state, but, states a couple regions away, and then, across the whole entire country. So, it's very competitive as you try to get to that next level. And I don't think people always understand that. Like, you just look at, oh, I'm the best on my team, or, I'm good at this one thing. When you start to talk about the next level, you've got to be good at all of the things and then have something even extra special from there.
Yeah, the mindset to be able to maintain at these high levels. And I don't think people get that. Like, the work ethic these days is very... I don't think they get what it really takes to compete at those levels for long periods of time. And I'm speaking from somebody that never played at that high level. I never made it to the pros, right? And semi-pro over summer leagues was the most that I ever played in. But and that took a tremendous amount of effort and hard mindset to get through. So I can't even imagine what some of these women go through. And that documentary that they put, was it on Netflix? On the women's national team?
The game, I don't remember what the name was, but yeah.
My God, I mean, watching the pressure of these women waiting to hear if they made the team.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a make or break moment for a lot of them. And I think, too, at this young age with these girls that are getting invited, yes, do they have the right attitude, and mindset to go into it? But also for their mental health, can they tolerate, like, the pressures, the disappointments, the letdown, the rejection? Because, if this is what maybe their dream is, and then it gets crushed immediately, are they going to have that resiliency to come back? I mean, you watch that documentary, I think maybe it was Sam Mewis's sister, maybe, that was rejected over and over again, and she kept trying, and then eventually, I think somewhere in that clip, she's like, this is all I have. This is the last, but these kids are so young. If we're talking about Jen's early career, I mean, it literally, she just said, it started on the playground with friends or in a community park. It didn't really change competitive until she was 13. Right? Is that what you said? So you have these first primal years where she's just falling in love with the game. Like, the pressure is not there.
And that's what I see, in the kids that we coach, or, a lot of the kids, like, there's not a whole lot of self-motivation because we've given them these structured environments at such a young age. Now when they have some important, opportunities, or they're wanting to be a little bit more successful, they don't understand, like, they have to do more. Like, what they're doing isn't enough. Just, showing up to practice isn't just good enough. Again, there's millions of kids out there. There's tons of different, players that want the same thing, and you've got to be able to do something special and something different. And it's not just, hey, my coach said run four sprints at the end of practice because, we're getting ready for an event coming up. Like, when I was younger, and again, I was fortunate, we had a huge park across the street, and my dad worked for the local park district, and somehow or some reason he came up with this idea of, like, hey, we're gonna build this wall across the street. And it was kind of weird, like, you think about a park and then, like, you just build a wall in it, but it was like right behind a group of trees and stuff, and it was like this wood wall that was supposedly the size of a goal, right? And so he just built this wall, and it was painted green, and this was approved by like the park district. Yeah, the city.
So the taxpayers funded your career.
I guess, pretty much. No, but I mean, it was open for everyone, but it just so happened to be, 50 yards from my house, right? And so
Well, you couldn't make it so obvious.
Yeah, but there was, I think, maybe 2 or 3 in other parks across the community and stuff.
Well, I love them, right? You can see them all over. They're handball courts
Yeah.
that are a lot of the times the concrete ones, the racquetball and everything
that's
else.
right. In Arizona, I used to go to those like racquetball courts, the concrete, and I remember just hitting balls off the wall.
But there was like, a little square in each of the corners, the top and bottom corners, and I would just like walk across the street with my bag of balls, or I remember I would get them out of the garage and I would put them on the little patch of grass right before the street, and then I would try to kick it over the street and see how far I could. But like things like that, like I don't have kids now, but I just look at some of our kids and we've got 3 nights a week of practice. We've got, sometimes 2-3 games over the weekend. Like, I get it. There's not a whole lot of extra time with school, and if you are doing another sport, like when do you go out and do this extra stuff, or when do you have this motivation?
I'm going to tell you, because we have the 2 girls, and you coach one of them, and we're very blessed to have you as a coach. But this is what they do: they go out early morning, or when we get home, they grab the balls out of the garage, they kick it against our garage, and then they try to punt it over our house. So we have soccer balls like that land in our
everywhere.
Gutters and are in bushes, and that we find them on different angles of our house or different sides of our house. And Helen will come out, Sophia will come out, they're like, Dad, can you go find our soccer ball? We're like, well, where did you hit it? I don't know, I just tried to kick it over the house. So that's what they're doing.
I think I've done
now.
that before.
Yeah,
but
that's what they're doing now.
No, so again, I would just go out to the park and play, and again, my best friend lived 5 houses down the street, so she would come over and we would just kick the ball against the wall. And
Did she play soccer as well?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, she played at DePaul University in Chicago for college, and then she did a little bit of the what was it called back then, the WPS with the St. Louis team. So
Wow. Okay. Wow, that's probably doesn't happen very often to people from a smaller town that made it as far as well as you did. That's pretty cool.
It's playground play, Brad.
So you keep
Stories like
talking,
Martha. I mean, in the backyard playgrounds.
Yeah, so you keep talking about this wall that was built, and all of it kind of circles back to your family. So looking back now, what do you think your parents did really well to support your development, not just as a player, but as a person? Because as we are posting the show, it's from so many different lenses, right? We see the game because we played it, we coach it, but we're also now parenting in it. And I think it's the parenting side that is driving us so crazy with the game's almost unrecognizable today versus what it was when we grew up. And I don't want to say that we didn't put the time, energy, and effort into it, but there seemed to be a whole lot more freedom or less intensity around the sport that these kids have to deal with. So as I look back and I'm sitting there going, gosh, this is a lot of pressure. Tell me the role of your parents as you went through all this.
My parents were very supportive, like most parents, right? Like, I think parents these days make a lot of sacrifices, right? Time, money, to do all these events and traveling. And, you guys know, you drive 45 minutes one way for practice, and then you hang out, and you guys are coaching, but other parents are hanging out in the car waiting. I mean, this is your Monday night, your Tuesday night, your Wednesday night. This weekend we're going to St. Louis, right? Like, parents lose all their free time too. But my parents were great and supportive. I think, like any parent, they were probably trying to get involved in the game, trying to be, as supportive as they could. And I remember my dad, at one point, he would always ask me, did you do the spin move? Did you do the spin move? And the spin move, because my dad doesn't know anything about soccer, and this is ironic that I ended up with the Kansas City Legends, is the Maradona. Like, my dad was obsessed with that skill, and he would always ask me, did you do the spin move in the game? Did you do the spin move? I'm like, no, Dad, I didn't do it. Didn't do it. Dad, leave me alone. And at some point, again, like, I think, they realized too, like, if this is something I wanted, it'd have to be, something that came from within, not just, them doing. And I hear kids these days like, my dad's going to give me $50 if I score a goal. I was like, man, I never got offered $50 to score a goal, but there's just like that lack of sometimes self-motivation.
And that's what we talked about in a previous episode, is that when it's not motivated internally, then it's not sustainable. It will go away. So when the parents' $50 run out, then who's motivating the kid if it's not coming from that intrinsic self? It's just not sustainable. It fades away.
And it's a balancing act, right? You have to teach kids how to find their motivation, especially at earlier ages. And I keep going back because my memory's awful. I can't even tell you, outside of maybe 5 or 6 big games that we played in our youth career, any other. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Everyone that's so worried about these weekend warrior, tournaments, or did we do this, did we do that? I hate to tell you, but your kid is probably not going to remember 95% of it by the time they're my age, the ripe old age of 32,
Eye roll. It's like, you didn't see my eye roll.
All right, maybe a decade or a little bit more.
No, but I feel like the mentality is always like, what's next, right? And I said, our parents at that time were doing a freaking tailgate, after the game for us. Not like we got to win this game because we're ranked number 15 in the country and we're playing the number 12 team in the country. The fact that parents even look at that sometimes is just mind-boggling to me.
Or the fact that people even do that. Who literally is keeping
Do you know
stats
the
of these
12s
kids?
are ranked?
No.
187th
Wow.
in the country?
Jen, congratulations. Look at that.
And the only reason I know that, somebody told me,
Yeah.
I guess there's apps out there that can track all of this and tell you. And I was like, well, we don't ever enter anything into to these apps or anything. He goes, oh, you don't have to anymore. Somebody is out there literally loading. I'm like, who the heck is
sits
loading
in
games?
Yeah.
This is just crazy to me. So it's absolutely wild. And again, I think as time progresses, I see parents pushing harder for their own kids instead of the kids just finding the joy and wanting it for themselves. And unfortunately, it leads to burnout. It leads to lack of fun and creativity. And this is kind of the core of everything that we talked about. So talk about, I know you're coaching in the Legends now. You have a lot of options in Kansas City. And I would imagine most every club in this country would probably want the Iron Woman of soccer in the professional side. And we're going to talk about your college and professional career in part 2. But you have a lot of choices on where you coach. Why Legends?
Wait, hold on. Can I be clear about something, Jen?
What's that?
I'm a stage 5 clinger, so I will find you.
No, I like Legends. I happened to come to Kansas City in 2013 with FC Kansas City when I was still playing professionally. I got traded or drafted, I guess. Yeah, traded, I don't know. Hugh Williams. So Hugh Williams brought me to Kansas City and I started, and one of the other girls that was on the team at the time was coaching at Legends, and I just kind of, as a professional, we would train in the morning, and there wasn't we would have film and, some strength stuff scattered out throughout the week, depending on our game schedule and stuff. But there wasn't a whole lot to do, and so I kind of got into coaching. That was really my first, run at really getting involved in the youth side of the game and stuff. And so I started coaching at Legends, just hanging out with some of her girls, and I ended up taking over her teams once she left, and I've been here ever since. But like I said, when I started playing back in Chicago at my club called Arsenal, it was very kind of technical based. And I think that's what has kept me at Legends for so long, is because that's kind of how I grew up playing, and I value kind of that developmental philosophy, and I think it's really important for the girls to learn those types of skills and stuff to become the best players they can be at an older age group. And when I was younger, on a Friday night, we would go to, again, the local community gym, and it was a basketball court, but it was called Skill Time, and the coach he had a boombox, a CD of old music that we didn't really have players know, like AC/DC and stuff, but it would be
Well, first of all, you said boombox.
Well, there you go. But it would be a 1 minute clip of the song, and you would do your skill for 1 minute, and then when the next song came on, you would change, and then it was everyone in the club knew, okay, this is the order of the skills we're doing, and again, as the song clips changed, you just changed your skills. And so for the first 20-30 minutes, it was just music and skills and playing, and again, kind of that fun
yeah,
fun environment. And then we played, again, because it was Chicago, the middle of winter sometimes. We played on a basketball court just because there wasn't, anything truly developed, as far as indoor fields back then. But we would just play small-sided, 4 against 4, 3 against 3, and it was just fun. And, I think that kind of is so similar to what the Legends tries to do, and I value those qualities.
So thinking about the teams that you coach now, and you have 2015 girls, 2014 girls, and 2012 girls.
But she had older girls.
And then you had older girls that are now in college.
Yeah.
So you've been through the cycle.
Yeah.
Right? Your style, does it reflect the way that you grew up? Or because what I often observe is myself, I love free play, let them go. But I also care passionately about attitude and effort. And so I will be harder on kids to make sure that they're bringing those two things. And I think the fun and everything else will take care of itself from it. So I have a tendency to go at it being a little bit more structured, and I'll be hard on girls if they're not working hard, right? But outside of that, talk about your kind of approach to how you develop, especially at some of the younger ages.
Or
Yeah.
expectations, yeah.
No, I think, given the younger girls, right, I do like to really kind of focus on that individual development and the skills and learning all that kind of key foundation things. But I do think as they get older, there is that emphasis on kind of your effort, your attitude. What are you bringing, to help the team each day? And again, it shouldn't be me, yelling at you to get warmed up, or, once you get there, put your shoes on, grab your ball, get out there, that kind of thing. And my older girls, they're now, the first group I started with, they were I shouldn't say the first group, but like the first group I started with at a young age. So like, under 9, under 10, was the 2004 group. And now they are, shockingly, seniors in college. So it's been a long process. And I think watching kids develop, and, when I played professionally and I first started at Legends and I kind of heard about it again, I knew from my experience growing up the importance of the skill stuff, but like, doing 1v1s and 2v2s and never playing and training outside, which is kind of, some of those key emphasis of the Legends, I kind of was like, hey, we're missing out on some things, and so I think I've tried to adapt a little bit with that as far as they get older, can we start incorporating some of these other things that are a part of the game, because they are important too. And I think there's got to be a little bit of a balance between, the smaller sided things and then seeing the bigger picture. And
now they're actually getting to that age where goals do matter. And so can you recall the first time you had a first big goal that you wanted to go achieve something big?
Oh, goal. I think, probably again, I started doing ODP around that time that I started playing club soccer. And again, my best friend was a year older than me, so she was starting to do some of that stuff, and I just kind of tagged along. But I remember I did ODP, and again, thankfully I was, lucky enough to get selected to the regional team. I think maybe the first year I did it, and then into the youth national team camp. I think it was under 14 at that time and stuff. But when I first signed up, going through the process, my dad was like, hey, if you make the national team, I'll get you a trampoline. And nobody really knows my dad, but my dad is like huge on landscape. And so like my brother was never allowed to cut the grass growing up. Like we would mess it up. Or like, like if you ever saw pictures of our backyard, there are like flowers and plants and everything everywhere. And so like having a trampoline in the backyard would crush my dad because it would destroy the grass underneath. I'm sure anyone that knows with the trampoline, like the grass underneath never grows. And so he was like, I'll get you a trampoline if you make the national team. And of course I ended up making the national team that year. But that was probably my first, kind of goal, is trying to, and not because my dad was giving me a trampoline, but.
And trampolines replace $50.
That is true. That is true. But it was something like, again, it's like seems so far out. And I don't think I was like, hey, I'm going to I'm sure I thought about making the national team, but there was a lot of little steps along the way, right? Like getting better at certain things, and then, even just making the state team and then making the regional team and stuff. So it was a process, but I think that was probably the first, bigger goal that I had. And then from there, once being in that environment, it kind of opened my eyes to the expectations. And again, like now you're playing with kids from all across the country, and everyone's really good. And these are the things that I really needed to start working on and building on to get better.
So, and this is right at high school year, and I'm assuming you played all 4 years of high school.
I did not play my senior year.
Why not?
My school wasn't the best, and again, all these girls that I grew up playing with were playing, and a lot of them were a little bit older. Not all of them, but my best friend was older, so she had just graduated, and I don't know. I just decided for myself and that I wasn't going to play, and it wasn't probably a bad thing. The local club that I had played with was doing some stuff like, for girls. And I think at that time, again, this is where the games start probably evolving, or the environment starts evolving, right? You see now today a lot of, or maybe it was before, but the ECNL kids, not being able to play for their high school teams, right, and that kind of thing. So I think, honestly, that was probably the start of it. Back then, were many kids doing it? No, probably not. You had to be in a pretty, developed club, and because the club I played for was so heavily successful on the boys' side, there were tons of opportunities to get involved. And at that point, I was, like training with some boys' teams and doing some stuff. And I know I had already committed to Notre Dame and stuff, so I kind of was just
training and getting prepared for the next step, which is funny because our high school back then wasn't as competitive and probably very similar to what you're expressing here, but it gave you 3 months break from your club team. And Andy Barney being our coach, every one of our team, 3 months we're gone. And then Andy would come back on fire because we'd all come back out of shape. We haven't done skills the way that he wants us to do skills for 3 months. And so it was always hell trying to get you guys back into playing shape, but we always enjoyed it. It was just a nice break. It's fun to go play for your school and friends, and again, it's an experience I'm afraid is going to start going to the wayside because we don't value it as much anymore. And even on the college level, with all of the portals and the NIL and all the changes, it's changed the landscape dramatically.
Yeah, I was going to say almost the politics of it too. Jen, what I hear in your story, which is I love, because I love the attachment piece of it, but it seems like so much of your play was with friends. It's supported by family, and then you're around friends. You got to hang out with your best friend, play soccer, play school, in high school with girls that you kind of grew up with. And then when they started transitioning out, it's like, okay, well, my friends are leaving me, And I think that's a big part too. And one of the things that I think that's a disheartening maybe is I think when so many kids jump clubs or leave, I think that attachment piece is missing, because there's no real loyalty to their teammates or their clubs or their coaches or, like those connections that are so important. We live in a world, I think, in my opinion, that's a little bit more disconnected than connected now. And I think people are searching to connect, which is why social media is so important, but because they're trying to get that. But you grew up in an environment where, like we played together. You went to a park together. You hung out together, and those attachments are so critical in our development and will continue to support our growth. We talk about it all the time, like iron sharpens iron. Who are we putting ourselves around to support our, who we're becoming?
Yeah, and we live in kind of this transactional world now, right? And instead of relationships and growing and working through something hard. Like, here's the statement that I made the other day was, how many teams now actually go through a hard time, put their head down, do the hard work, and try to get better on the other side versus let's just go look around and see how can we make ourselves better by making changes, right? And I grew up in a world where, I trained with Andy, and I love this. I got to read it to you. So this is from Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so does person sharpens another. The Lord tells us to find a brother and that real strength is forged side by side with men who challenge you. Check your blind spots and won't let you stay soft. Weak company dulls the blade, but true brothers will grind into a weapon. So surround yourself with the ones that make you sharper and be the one that sharpens back. And that is how warriors are built. I love the attitude and the mindset of that, right? It's put yourself with like-minded people and go towards a goal. And I find ourselves in this transactional world of soccer where we don't want to do the hard work anymore. We just want to, I'll go look around, see who kind of bring in and change my environment quickly.
Yeah, well, I think I love hearing that as a part of your story because I think that's a big piece, And Brad, you're right. It's the kids these days they're on chopping blocks,
Well,
right? Like they're on these revolving. What did we call it before? Conveyor belt.
Conveyor belt.
Like
They're
they're
in and
going
out.
through these systems, and there's a conveyor belt. But I think we're missing a really important piece. Like, who do we surround ourselves by that are going to really help these kids grow? And I think the other piece of that is we'll get into this in another episode, but it's all the platforms that are developing. I think they're getting washed out, and we're really not getting like the top competition to sharpen each team, so again, save that for another time. But I think that's part of the impacts of
the culture.
all the
we
platforms
just want to
opening
play,
up.
right?
Yeah.
And you want to play against other teams that are just as good because our opponents are not our enemies. They are ones that are going to help us get better. These are your friends, your best friend that played that says, okay, we're going to go out here in the park and we're going to play together and we're just going to motivate each other. And I think those are pieces that are missing a little bit, and which I love about the 12s. I think we're so blessed because we went out to that Capelli showcase, and my coach came out to watch, and he said, if your team was out here, he said there would be vultures all over them. He goes, try to keep them together as long as you can.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, oh, we'll stay together. It's fine. And then I started thinking about like the culture. And I was like, right now we're really blessed because we know what's coming.
Yeah.
We're in that window. We'll see.
Yeah. So we know what's coming. But thinking about that mindset of how do you keep these girls together to really continue sharpening each other. And yeah, again, love hearing that as a part of your story.
Yeah. And I think from, working with my older teams in the past and even these guys now, I always tell them the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Like they may have X, Y, Z, or they may be telling you these things, but you're also losing out on these areas. Or, again, the emphasis isn't necessarily on you getting better, but now you're in this different environment where again, you're missing out on some key developmental qualities and growing.
Well, the entire name of your podcast is The Journey of a Million Miles. Like we all want to get there in a sprint, but these aren't sprints, right? It takes a long time to develop the mindset, the attitude, and the passion and love. Like, if you ask me, most of them are going to lose the passion and love by the time they get to college. Why? Because they're going to show up at a big D1 school and they're going to figure out, hey, every Saturday they play football. Instead of traveling on a bus for 8 hours on Thursday to play a game Friday night, and you can't do anything Saturday because you're probably training for a game on Sunday, you could be sitting at a football game with all of your friends having a good time watching and cheering your team on. Like you start to realize life around you there's more to it. And so without that love of the game, you're not going to have sustainability and you're really not going to make impact. So anyway, you guys have to get moving because you have to get to St. Louis to go coach the 2012s and a weekend of games.
I'm just riding coattails.
Yeah, I know. But
sit on the bench.
So, Jen, your story so far has been incredible because it shows the greatness doesn't come out of nowhere. It's built piece by piece through family support, relentless work, and the courage to set goals when you feel out of reach. To the players, coaches, and parents listening, this is where every legend's journey begins, or every soccer player's journeys begin. You have to know that if you're not willing to do the hard work over time and just be patient with the process, what does your shirt say? Trust the process, right? Then you're going to lead them to burnout. You're going to lead them to something that is not overly healthy for your kids.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to add, or get your dad to build you a wall in a park. I mean,
or buy a trampoline.
Or buy a
You heard
trampoline.
it first
You're
on
right
this podcast.
here. It's a
if
trampoline.
you want to get your kids,
it's no longer ice cream. It's no longer $50.
If you want to be,
trampoline.
if you want to be Iron Woman status, you've got to go get a trampoline for your kid at U14. So there it is.
All right. And
That's
so I have one more thing, Jen, before you go.
Okay.
Like, I'm just honored that you're on this podcast.
thank you.
I mean, this has just been wonderful. And I'm kind of starstruck because we have a professional in our small studio here. So, will you actually do me a favor and sign my jersey?
Oh, no.
This is hilarious. So at Notre Dame,
All right.
so I'll set the stage for people that haven't
Look at
listened.
this.
Several years ago,
Look
Jen
at this,
offered to
Notre
take
Dame.
all of the girls
This Notre Dame jersey.
to Notre Dame soccer camp, and
Yeah.
it turned into Jen driving a bunch of girls and Sarah and I following in the truck to carry year one. Year two, we have 2 minivans taking kids out there, and then they sell these jerseys down in the basement, and it's been a trip. Again, the purpose of the Notre Dame soccer camp has been nothing other than let these kids go be kids together and have some fun. And I tell you, it's just been a ball. So our daughter bought a Notre Dame jersey, and then my wife wanted to bring it in to get it signed by the first professional player, which I'm wildly confused because I wear my jersey to bed every other week, and she never asked me to sign my jersey or anything else.
We know
Jen.
who the favorite is.
Yeah, I'm taking back seat here.
Brad, iron sharpens iron. I found a new iron.
So next time we'll move into part 2 of Jen's journey, what it takes not to only reach the highest levels, but to stay there. So the Iron Woman years is what we're going to call the show. But for today, let's hold on to the truth. Every mile of the journey starts with those early steps, and those steps are never wasted. So thanks everyone for listening today. Jen, I hope it wasn't terrible for you to jump into the studio and have some fun.
She's ready to do it again.
I was going to say, I'm glad to be back for part 2 and part 3.
Well, I can't wait to get you fired up on one of these where we can go lay into some thoughts of, where we think there's some toxicities. And I think those are going to be some healthy episodes. And those that are listening and saying, well, where is all of the controversy and all that? Be patient. We're coming. But we want you to understand that we're trying to come at this from a place of good, of trying to improve things and being thoughtful in the way that we're thinking about it. So I don't want to just go out there and pretend that we're mad at something. We want to, really take you on the journey, because our journey of 1,000,000 miles started on this podcast about 4 weeks ago, and it's going to take some time to set the tone. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Jen,
for
Sarah.
our live studio audience. Yeah,
Thank
you.
you.
Sarah, I'll sign my
Thank you.
jersey for you when you get home. Thank you.
Sounds good, honey. God bless.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.